Well, good evening. I am Pastor Jonathan Yoder, and I'm honored to be here this evening. We are gathered here to celebrate the life and to honor the memory of Jerry Murphy, known to us as Murph. His passing has brought us together, but it is his life that we wish to remember. We are drawn together by our common love, our common respect, and our common loss. We are thankful for Murph's life and all that he meant to us. He truly was an inspiration. And so I welcome you to this gathering as we celebrate his life. Thank you for coming. There is comfort and strength in being together, and we're grateful for your presence. My relationship with Murph began in 2006 when our daughter Sarah began working at WIOV. I was impressed by his kindness and support of Sarah as she began her career in radio. They shared an office together, and she would come home and tell us about the stories he shared because they always made her laugh. He also seemed quite taken by the fact that Sarah's dad was a pastor. And as I came to know Murph, I saw that he had a heart of compassion and cared deeply about the community, especially those who were hurting. This was evidenced when he contacted me just before the one-year anniversary of the tragedy of Nickel Mines, saying he wanted to remember that day on the actual anniversary. And he invited me to join him, as well as Casey, on their morning show by saying a prayer for all those impacted by this awful tragedy. And so I shared a prayer that was used on air on that day, and I was honored to do so. That was Murph, his heart, compassion for those who were hurting. This evening, as we remember Murph, I've been asked to share a scripture and to say a prayer. And as I reflected upon Murph's life, the scripture that came to me was from Psalm 91. So I'm going to read several verses from that psalm. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. Because He loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him, and I will honor him. Now let us pray. Gracious and loving God, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, you brought forth the earth and the world. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. A God of love and compassion, a God of grace and forgiveness, God who loves us, each one of us, with an everlasting love, and who gives to us His amazing and generous grace when we place our faith and trust in Him. Dear God, as we have gathered to celebrate the life of our friend Murph, may your presence fill this place and fill our hearts. Grant us your comfort, grant us your strength, and grant us your peace. In the name of our Lord we pray. Amen.
tuning fork. It's one of the most basic and simple musical instruments mankind has ever created. And I don't mean simple to have a negative connotation. I mean simple in that it is one of the few devices designed specifically to produce only one note, one pure tone, just one frequency of sound. Now, what is sound? Well, scientifically speaking, sound is the energy that things produce when they vibrate. This tuning fork is the perfect example of that. When I strike it, the metal tines vibrate almost imperceptibly, but in doing so, they release an energy that we comprehend as sound. The vibrating metal impacts the air right beside the tuning fork, causing the air to vibrate as energy is being transferred farther and farther away from the original source, until the energy reaches your ear and your brain interprets that energy as sound. Jerry Murphy made a career working with sound. And especially in this past week, as I've looked through the hundreds of comments on the radio station Facebook page and had the chance to talk with people who shared their personal stories, I'm struck by how much the science of sound can be used to describe Murph's life. He had an undeniable energy, an energy that just radiated out from him. When sound energy is powerful enough, it doesn't just vibrate the air. It can blow your hair back. It can shake the walls of your house. It can break glass. It impacts everything in which it comes in contact. That's how it was to know Jerry Murphy. His energy impacted so many lives. In his radio career, he used his platform to reach hundreds of thousands of people, bringing them joy each and every day as part of the morning show. And his coworkers, I've heard so many times things like, "Murph helped me get my career started." And he was always so kind and helpful and gave me the best advice. He touched the community through his support of the Children's Miracle Network and other charitable organizations, raising awareness, generating financial support, helping people to share their stories, and ultimately improving the quality of life for countless children and families. And it's unquestionable that his energy was vitally important for many in the recovery community. His care and dedication to people struggling with addiction cannot be underestimated. One of the comments I read online started with the powerful sentence, "Jerry Murphy saved my son's life." And not only did Murphy act as the catalyst that got this particular young man to enter a rehabilitation program, but I understand that he followed along with him on his journey to recovery. He guided the son to an aftercare program, helped him find housing, counseling, and continued to check in with him as recently as 2 weeks ago. I'm sure most of you here tonight have your own stories of how Jerry Murphy touched your life, or helped you to correct course, or shepherded you when you needed guidance. Now, the energy of sound travels in waves, compressional waves, meaning that in order for the energy to travel, the air has to be pushed away from the source of the sound and then pulled back together. Pushed away, pulled back in. Pushed away, pulled back in. Murph could be like that, too. Sometimes he pushed you because that's what you needed. It was the encouragement to take that next step, even when that next step was daunting. Sometimes you might not have known why you felt pushed, but like a compressional wave, he was there, wanting to draw you back in, to be close. In preparing for tonight, I read through a few sections of the book of Acts in the Bible. Acts tells the story of the beginnings of the Christian church. It details the work of those first apostles, meaning one who is sent out as they visit people in the community, share good news, and perform miraculous deeds. And it's notable to look at this book from a broad perspective, recognizing that these stories are not a bunch of isolated events, but they're a series of occurrences that cause a chain reaction, one moment precipitating the next. For example, in chapter 9, Peter, a man whose life was shaped by his time with Jesus, travels to a city where he meets a man named Aeneas. Aeneas is ill and paralyzed, and Peter stays with him, cares for him, and even heals him. Well, word gets around, and suddenly people all over the city start believing in the power of God. Chain reaction. And word spreads to the neighboring city, and when Tabitha becomes ill and dies, it's Peter that they send for, who again performs miraculous acts, and the chain reaction continues. Sometimes God's grace may seem random, haphazard, or unpredictable. But I have to think that God moves strategically, putting people in just the right place at the times when we need them most. Peter was human, just like you and me and Murphy. And yet God positioned him to use his gifts to best help the people around him, right when they needed it. I think God does that for us as well. Many of you can attest, Jerry Murphy may have been the person you needed when you were in want. He may have been the words of encouragement when you were desperate for that support. And he gave those things gladly, because that's who God helped him to be. I described Murph as having a distinctive energy. You know, there is a law in physics known as the conservation of energy. And it states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It only changes in the way that we experience it. What that means is that all the energy in the world has always been here and will always be here. Jerry Murphy's energy is here. It's present in us because of how he impacted our lives. On the back of your program, you'll find the Serenity Prayer. It's a beautiful prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. When I hear this prayer from now on, I think I'm going to add for myself, and grant me the energy to carry on the legacy of men like Jerry Murphy.
Oh, hi, everyone. It's Uncle Murph. What a coincidence we run into each other here. Hey, listen, I'm glad I got your attention for just a second because there's something very, very exciting coming right here to the BigI105.com. It's Murph and Casey TV. It's going to be incredible. You'll be a part of it. So keep watching. The BigI105.com, Murph and Casey TV, coming soon.
Thanks, Murph. How's everybody doing? All right. Now, I'm going to be a little bit unorthodox up here because I think that's the way Murph would have liked it. We have a chair set up over here. For those of you that don't know, this chair is where Jerry is sitting tonight. And in case you didn't know, his name was Jerry. You may have known him by several names. He had Jerry Murphy, Murph, Gebby, Gerald Gebhard, Gerald Francis, Xavier Murphy, or Roxane Handsome. Which I think all of you. How many people listen to Jerry Murphy on the radio? Let me hear you. How many people knew Jerry through recovery? Now, just so Murph can hear you, everybody all together, let me hear you. So, my name is Rich Creeger from the Big I 105, and I am honored, I am privileged to be one of those not only asked to speak about a man who obviously had such an impact on the community, but to have also been his friend. So I'd like to start this out this evening by saying what Murph would have said. Hey, baby, how y'all? Everybody doing okay? All right, we've got quite the program going on here this evening. We've got a bunch of audio clips. We've got a bunch of video clips as well. And I think we're going to have a little bit of fun here tonight. Now, Murph was not only my friend, he was a confidant, he was an advisor, he was my business partner, he was my influence in recovery, he was my co-host on Trudge the Road radio program, and he was my pain-in-the-ass morning guy at WIOV. And I mean that. I spent a lot of time with him over the last decade. I got to know him very well, or as well as anyone could, because let's face it, separating what was real and what was not could sometimes be a challenge. For example, when I first got to the radio station, I discovered this water cooler college. Yeah. And I was listening to it one day, and I was listening to the things he was saying. I was like, what? He's talking about American women are most attracted to the smell of a wet squirrel. I'm like, what? So I asked him about this. I said, seriously, dude, a wet squirrel? He goes, oh, yeah, baby, it's science, science. You have those women clinging to you like stink on a monkey. Now, Murph was either from Wyoming, Colorado, Montgomery, Alabama, Louisville, Kentucky, South Carolina, or North Carolina, depending on the day, and the content of the question, and he always had a story that was ready to go and connect with whatever one you were telling, and his was always better. You may have heard the phrase, a voice so compelling you could listen to it read the phone book. That was Murph. His stories were always wild, they were intriguing, they made you laugh, even if it was the 10th time that you'd heard it. He was never boring, and that's what made him so good on the radio. His off-the-cuff thoughts, his delivery were a must-listen every morning at I-105. Listeners at I-105 got to wake up to that for 19 years. And right there, riding shotgun, every day of it, was his work wife and his partner in crime, Miss Casey Allyn. How about a hand for Casey over here? Now, you might want to take that applause back, because despite all the rumors on the internet, she is not wearing clam diggers and a tube top tonight. I tried. I did. I said, do it for Murph. Do it for Murph. Some folks coming in tonight were wondering why I wasn't wearing a jacket and a tie, because, well, if there was anyone who was unorthodox and would be egging me on and challenging me, I dare you, man. I dare you to wear a Hawaiian shirt. It would have been Murph. So I wore something beachy, because Murph loved the beach. He loved the beach. He often said that is where he came to believe in God. It was the beauty, the peacefulness, the power of the ocean that moved him along in his understanding of a power greater than himself, and it was his go-to. It was where he loved to be with his daughter Chelsea, who's down here in the front row, his grandchildren Mia and Levi, and when he'd come back from a trip, his face would just light up when he'd tell those stories. His eyes would dance, and he'd tell how he just sat on the beach and he'd watch them play in the sand and the water, and how those moments reaffirmed his belief. Now, Murph often told me that the beach cured depression. He told me they used beach sand as one of the main ingredients in Prozac, and when you walked on them barefoot on it, the pores on the bottom of your feet would absorb it, causing you nothing but worry-free happiness. I said, what? Yup, science, baby. That happiness will cling to you like stink on a monkey. And Murph also loved recovery. Let's face it, 29 and a half years sober at his passing. He got sober July 1st, 1988 in Louisville, Kentucky. At the time, he was living on the streets of Louisville in a tree. That's what he said. I said, really? Science, baby. Live in a tree, you get sober. Well, he fell out of that tree, I think, for the second time. He fell in front of a cop car, and that's when he found his sobriety at the Healing Place in Louisville, Kentucky, where he was the only white guy. And he loved to tell this story about how they called him White Boy. And it was appropriate that he got sober in the African American community because Murph did not have a discriminatory bone in his body. He loved all people, all colors, religions, backgrounds. He just loved people, and he loved helping people. And I'm sure there are many people in this room tonight that can attest to that fact. Am I right? When Murph wasn't at WIOV, he was deeply involved with the recovering community in Lancaster and Berks counties. Better put, when Murph wasn't at WIOV, he was deeply involved in saving people's lives. You can't keep it unless you give it away. And give it away, Murph did. To individuals here locally, across the world, and that is not an overstatement or hyperbole. Our Trudge the Road radio show was listened to all over the world. He would get letters from Poland, Ireland, Germany, and all across the United States. I've traveled with him to treatment centers as far away as California and as close as Cairn Treatment Center in Wernersville, or up at the retreat where he spent a good amount of time. And when he spoke and he shared his experience, strength, and hope, it was as good the first time as it was the last time. People sat rapt with attention, and to look at people's faces, they would be laughing, they'd be crying, they'd be nodding their heads with each story he told. And each one of those stories had a lesson in it, and some of those stories were just downright outrageous. For those of you that know, I can't tell the whole story, but I can give you the punchline, and it had to do with a gorilla, and it wasn't over until the gorilla was done. Anybody familiar with that story? Yeah. Hey, and when it came to recovery, Murph talked the talk, and he walked the walk. His DVD, Jerry and the 12 Steps, was and continues to be used in treatment centers all across America, and I believe will continue to be for many, many years. He'd always say that when you got to treatment, you had reached the top of the mountain. The hard part was over. It was time to surrender and breathe the clean air of decency. I cannot tell you the times that I have called Jerry over the last decade in a situation in regards to recovery with maybe a family member or someone I know, and I'd always say, dude, I'm sorry to bother you, but I really need your help, and would you mind making a call and helping this person? And he would always say, don't sweat it. That's what I do. Every single time. Don't sweat it, brother. That's what I do. Jerry believed that we were all put on this earth to do one thing, and that was to love. That's what we're here for, to love each other, to help each other, to be available for each other. You know, recently, Casey and I and Chelsea had a chance to go over to his apartment after he had passed. And, I got a chance to see how Murph lived. And Murph did not live an extravagant life. He was a minimalist. I went in his closet, and he had 3 shirts. You've all seen the shirts. He had a pair of pants. He had some shorts, 2 pairs of socks, and a pair of underwear. Do you know why Jerry Murphy did not have a lot of things? It's because Jerry gave it all away. He gave away. I would see him show up at treatment centers, recovery houses, sober houses, and he'd always say, I need to stop by the store and I need to pick up a couple of cartons of cigarettes before I go, because he wanted to make sure everybody there had them. He'd always pick up a dozen donuts and a couple of things of coffee. And people would constantly be saying, hey man, can I borrow $20? And he would be right there with that money. That's why Jerry didn't have a lot of things in his apartment. He gave it away. He didn't need it. He had everything he had was right there in Jerry's heart. Just a couple of weeks ago, he was telling me he got a new TV. He said, hey, baby, I got a new TV. I said, really, what'd you get? He goes, oh, I got a big flat screen. I was just over there. It's 19 inches. And the picture only comes up halfway on the screen. I walked in there, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That was Murph, man. I mean, he was just that guy. And I was talking to somebody recently about this, about Murph passing and, the struggle to kind of get through it on a personal level because it was so sudden. I mean, there's not anybody in this room that hasn't lost anybody. And it seems that most of the people that I've lost, I knew it was coming. It was one of those things. But with Jerry, it was very sudden. So trying to wrap my head around that is difficult, I think, as it would be for anybody. But Zach, you said it when you were up here just a few minutes. By the way, Zach over here is married to Sarah. Sarah is Sarah Sage from WIOV. Zach is Casey's son. So how about a hand for Zach right there? And before Zach was Pastor Yoder. Pastor Yoder is the father of Sarah Sage, who is married to Zach, who is Casey's son. But Jerry did give it all away. I mean, and although Jerry's not here, you did say this earlier, Jerry's not here, there's a part of Jerry that lives in all of us. Whether you listen to him on the radio, or he helped you in recovery, or you just met him at a live broadcast. He was definitely a person that I think that we'll never, ever forget. And the lessons that he gave to us, he always had such a great perspective on anything. Anytime you had something going on, you could ask him, and he always gave you a great perspective. Those things will live on, I think, through all of us. Although we did have a saying around the radio station about getting Murph, didn't we? Yeah, Jen Carlson's sitting right there. She's the one who came up with that phrase a long time ago, getting Murphed. And I got to tell you, there are times when I keep waiting for him to come walking down that walkway and just say, hey, baby, you got Murphed. One thing about Jerry is Jerry never said goodbye. Whenever he would leave, that Tuesday, February 13th, he left my office. He was in a great mood. And when he left, he didn't say goodbye. He said, I'll see you in a minute. And tonight, I'd like to tell that chair, where I believe the presence of Jerry is watching all of this, hey, Jerry, I'll see you in a minute. Thank you.
Egotism is the anesthetic that dulls the pain of stupidity. We'll put it that way. And the behavior ramifications can be phenomenal. And one of the beauties of Alcoholics Anonymous, is what my daughter has brought to my attention. Chelsea grew up in AA. She's an adult now, but when she was with me and as a child, she was going to AA meetings because that's where I was. And what amazes her the most is our ability to laugh, and sometimes laugh hysterically, at the most tragic of situations. And that's just such a big, because it was that ego that got us into those things. For example, even with her mother, and I shared this with Beth, the producer, who was at my house trying to fix my computer the other day. And this is kind of how we function. I'm going back many, many years, like 1980. And I was working on the radio at the time in Denver. And I had gotten a ratings bonus of $1,500. Now, in 1980, wow. $1,500, that was half a Toyota. That was some pretty serious money. And it was just handed to me at 8 o'clock in the morning. Congratulations, you did well. Did I buy that half a Toyota? Did I think about putting a down payment on a house? No, I'm on the horn to Donna. We're going to Vegas. Got money? Go to Las Vegas. And of course, there's no planning involved in this. I'm not thinking. I'm just experiencing the feeling, the emotion, the excitement, the booze. Let's get it together. So in Denver, there's a flight leaving for Vegas every 20 minutes, and this is again in 1980 when you could pull up at the airport, half drunk out of your mind, pay in cash, hop on and go.
Right.
It was easy to travel. And so I told Donna, just throw some stuff in a bag. We'll buy things when we get there. We got to get to Vegas ASAP. And so she did, and I put together a couple of things, grabbed her, and of course now it's maybe noon, so my blood alcohol levels are probably about 2.7, 2.8. We're working on it, and get to the airport, and we get to the terminal to get on the airplane, and we're separated because we just bought tickets there. She's sitting somewhere else on the plane. And so I sat down and again started just drinking. I had a little problem with blackouts. And a blackout is alcoholic amnesia, if you will, where you may be carrying on a conversation and maybe even not doing anything inappropriate, but have absolutely no recollection of it whatsoever. Well, all of a sudden, I come out of a blackout, and I'm on an airplane, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going on an airplane. And sitting next to me, to my left, is an Asian person, and to the right, another Asian person, who are both looking up at me like, what is the matter with this guy? And I'm drooling by that time. Well, I'm on an airplane with two Asian people. I'm, oh God. I mean, we're, catch my, here comes that panic attack.
I'm going to Beijing.
So I grabbed that magazine, and I started thumbing through, and there's all these ads for Vegas, and it starts coming back. Oh, Vegas, the money. That's right. Going to Vegas. Calm down. Cocktail, please. And in those days, too, if you were paying for them, they'd serve them to you. It didn't make any difference. And we get to Vegas. Now, part of that blackout is, it slipped my mind that Donna came. And I remember walking off the plane, and she's standing there, and I'm going, oh, hey! Oh, what a surprise! I wish I was making this up. I'm not. I will have her sometime come here and tell you the exact same story. So, and Donna, a beautiful, beautiful girl, and blonde, and just so attractive, and we're in Vegas and got a pocket full of money, and bang, we check into the hotel, we hit in the casino, we're drinking, we're having a big time, and that evening, we need to take a little rest here before we resume the activities. Donna is pretty much blind without her contact lenses. Again, this is 1980, and had forgotten to bring the little contact lens container, so she popped her contacts out and just put them in a glass of water. I get thirsty at night. Yes. And in the middle of the night, and I even thought to myself, isn't she the sweetest girl leaving me a glass of water? And I drank her contacts. And you couldn't just call lens crafters in those days. It didn't exist. You had to go through an ophthalmologist. So now it's Saturday in Las Vegas. Friday, I'm in Las Vegas with this beautiful blonde on my arm going to all the casinos. Saturday, I'm with Stevie Wonder. She can't see. And she literally having to hold my arm, and I'm having to guide her down. And I'm thinking, you are ruining my time. So I took her to this slot machine and sat her down and went and got one of those Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets full of nickels,
right,
and said, here you go, I'll be right over there. And what I meant by right over there was downtown. And selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of all of our problems. You see, now she wasn't part of my fun, so I'm just going to kind of exclude her. Well, when I finally get back, she's upset. And
I imagine so.
Yeah, and she wanted to go to the bathroom. I'd forgotten about. This is how selfish I am. I was wondering if the casino had one of those like seeing eye dogs that you can borrow for just to get her to the ladies' room and back, because they've got everything else in a casino. But so anyway, she said, "No, I want to go up to the room." And I said, "All right, well, I'll push the elevator. It's the 26th floor. Just feel your way down 8 doorknobs, and that's our room." And that really upset her. So I thought, well, I guess I better go up and sit down with her. And so I did, and she was, very upset and thought my behavior was terrible, and that I didn't love her and I didn't care about her. And so I had to make that right. I absolutely had to make that right. And so I asked her to marry me. I did. Will you marry me? And that quieted her right down. She wasn't mad anymore at all, so let's go back down to the casino, And then again, you see, just functioning with complete emotion and that ego. And it was just tremendous. But that's what I was telling you with Chelsea, is that we all just laughed about that. And we just have this, tremendous gift that God has given us, is the ability to laugh at such tragic situations. And that's just such a part of getting better. And we are getting better here on Trudge the Road.
And I guess it's safe to say that the marriage didn't last very long after that.
No. But Donna's a good friend, and probably might be listening to this morning. If she is, I love you. Thank you very much for all you did.
Of course, I've got to follow the best public speaker there is. My name's Joe, and hey, thanks. I'm really honored and humbled to have been asked to speak this evening. And what do I got to do?
Professional, what do I got to do? A little closer. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, there we go. But I've got to be completely honest with everybody in the room that when I was originally asked to speak, I really hesitated. I wasn't sure that I wanted to do this. And I knew that I needed to do it, and that I would regret not having the opportunity to stand here and explain to everybody what Jerry Murphy meant to me. And there's a lot of people in this room, and the man meant a lot to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. And I apologize, but I never listened to your radio show. I heard it was great. That's not how I knew the man. And I really agonized over trying to figure out how I could best explain how I knew him to those that did not know him in that way. And I came up with this crazy thing, and you're just going to have to stick with me for a second. To me, Jerry Murphy was Batman. He was literally Batman. Just think about it for a second. He had this super cool day gig, and everybody knew who he was. He was well known within the community. He was well respected. Everybody knew him. And he'd finish that day gig, and then he'd go home, and at night he'd run around all night dressed in black, fighting evil and doing what he could for everybody else. Now, if that's not enough to prove that he's Batman, I'm not quite sure what is. Other than the fact that he belonged to this super secret society, with other people just like him that ran around doing all the same things that he did. And if that's not the Justice League, I really don't. I don't know what is. And that's the best analogy that I can come up with. But I think to really share with you how I feel, I'd have to explain that Jerry wasn't always Batman to me. And when I had gotten to a place in my life where I didn't think there was a way out, I had gotten as low as I could possibly get. The hole I was in was so deep and so dark, and I was ready to give up because I saw no way out. God gave me Jerry, and he reached his hand down the hole, and he pulled me out. The first time I met Jerry, I walked into a recovery meeting, and he was actually chairing the meeting. And he's got this larger-than-life personality, and he's got this booming voice, and for whatever reason, I was just drawn to him. It was like a magnet. I think that everybody that ever met Jerry felt the same exact way. And I was so scared, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And at the end of the meeting, I walked up to him, and I simply said, "I need help. I think I need help." And he looked at me, and the way that Jerry rolls, he said something ridiculous like, "Oh man, I'm glad you're finally here. We've been waiting for you." And then he wrapped his arms around me, and he gave me a hug. And as he backed up, he put his hands on either one of my shoulders, and he said, "You're safe. And everything's going to be okay, and we're going to get you through this." And it wasn't the words. It wasn't the words that he said. It was how he made me feel. For the very first time in my life, I felt hope. And I honestly believed that my life was going to be okay. Step by step, we ended that conversation. He gave me a book, and we started immediately. What did we start? Well, in that very moment, when my life was basically hanging in limbo, the man knew exactly what to say. Not only did he know exactly what to say, he knew exactly how to say it. And I honestly can say that I don't think I would be here today had it not been for Jerry Murphy. So we hear lots of people talk about Jerry saved my life, or I know somebody that I'm a living example. I would not be standing here today if it was not for this man. So he walks me through, and step by step, day by day, over a period of time, my recovery got stronger. I started to see life for what it really was. And as my recovery got stronger, I got to learn a lot more about Jerry. And not only was he my sponsor, but he was my friend. And I was exposed to his life, and I saw how he lived, and I saw how he gave to everybody around him. And it was beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. Rich tells the story about cigarettes. Standing out in front of White Deer Run on a weekend morning. Jerry's standing there. He screams at me. I'm parked across the street. I come running over. He looks like he's in the middle of doing something that's just, this is the biggest heist in the world. He says, "Younger." He didn't talk like that, but in my head, that's how he talks. He says, come here, Younger." And he opens up my jacket, and he starts jamming cartons of cigarettes into my jacket so that we could smuggle them into Detox to give them to everybody. So we walk in, we slip by, we get in the room, we're handing out all these cigarettes, and I'm sitting there, and I literally feel like Robin. I'm Batman's sidekick. This is like the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Rich has already said it, but the man lived to serve others. And I've been to a lot of meetings over the last 10 days, or however many days, I've lost track. And every single meeting that I've been to over the last however long, there hasn't been a single moment where his name wasn't mentioned, and all of the wonderful things that he did. And I can't feel as if there's a hole in the recovery community where he was. And I hear people struggle about what we're going to do as a community now that he's no longer here. And I don't know. But I do know what he would want us all to do. He taught all of us. We learned from him. We learned what to say and how to say it. And now all we have to do is go do it. And he would want that more than anything. So I don't know if anything I just said made any sense, but I've got something here that I want to read because I know that if Jerry had the opportunity to leave us with one last thought, it would be to carry forward everything that he worked so hard to do. And there's a saying that I'm going to read, and I printed it out because I knew I was going to mess it up if I didn't print it out. And there's some folks that I heard clap in the room that know this, and if you feel like it and you're comfortable with it, I'd like to hear you say it along with me. I am responsible. When anyone, anywhere, reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA always to be there. And for that, I am responsible.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Here we are, step 12 of our overview of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous here at the recoveryforlifechannel.com. This is a big deal. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. What does that mean? I'm going to take you back to the early 1930s and the founder of our program, Bill Wilson. This is absolutely true. He sat on a bed at Towns Hospital in New York, and he was done. It was over. They were downstairs signing those commitment papers, and he knew it. And he said this, and he said it out loud. Listen carefully. Bill said, "I wonder if I can't get sober. by helping another alcoholic get sober? My brothers and sisters, the answer to that question holds the true essence of what is human nature. You and I were created to love. And what's the definition of love? The true definition of love? Being of ultimate service to others. The 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, you came here with an alcohol problem. You came here with that monkey on your back, and all you wanted to do was quit drinking, and you found out why you were created. What a trip. It's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Here we are, step 12.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jay Aukamp, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. Hey, thanks, Joe. Got me up here blubbering. Rich was kind enough to give me a call in the morning when Jerry passed. I was listening to the radio show on the way to work, and Case was on by herself, and I thought, well, that knucklehead didn't tell me he was going to the beach. Once again, I missed the trip. Not happy about that. I'm going to let him know. And Rich gave me a call in the morning and let me know. This is the upbeat part. He said that Jerry had passed. My wife told me I was going to do this. And said I wanted to let you know because Jerry had great respect for you. And I thought, boy, does he have that wrong? That just ain't right. And the respect that I have for him is immeasurable, and to be humbled and honored to call him friend is just unbelievable. Excuse me. When I read in the paper his name, Gerald Murphy Gebhard, I thought, dear God, I don't know that guy. I'm going to talk about Murph. I had the honor of hearing his story many times, and I always loved the part about living in the tree. And I also loved the part when he would, in that big radio booming voice, tell you, this shit's gonna kill you. And people would, he would get their attention. And he commanded respect when he spoke just by speaking. I mean, there was a friend of mine who came into the club, into the 521 club one afternoon when Jerry was there, and he was having trouble staying here. He was having trouble staying sober, and he was a mess. He looked horrible. He felt horrible, and he was at the end. He was just at the end, and he said Jerry walked up to him, looked at him, put his hand out, and he said, "The nightmare's over." That's how Jerry thought about this recovery thing. When you got here, the worst part was over. You know, when you got to the top of the mountain, it's over. You know, once you say that, all you have to say is, "I think I have a problem," and he'd say, "I think you're right." You know. People that don't have drinking problems don't go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. That's just how it works. And I've been a friend of Jerry's for probably, I think, 5 or 6 years. And I read the Facebook page when folks started posting, and the folks that met him once, you know, it was I don't know what it was, you know, like the hug Joe talked about was the same for everyone, whether you were at a remote at Turkey Hill, or you were at an AA meeting at the 521 Club, or an AA meeting in Louisville, or an AA meeting in Colorado from where he was from, or an AA meeting, wherever, whatever town he was from that day. He was, that hug, you just knew, when you were done talking to him, you just knew that everything was going to be okay. You just knew that. And Jerry had asked me, I am currently humbled and honored again to be the chairman of the board at the 521 Club. Jerry loved the 521 Club, as I do. 521 Club here in Lancaster saved my life. It literally saved my life when I got out of treatment. I ended up there. And I've been a member there for the past 29 years. And me and Murph we're always scheming. I mean, we're always planning on ways to raise funds for the 521 Club. And we had many grandiose ideas that I'll keep between me and him. But we did have... he was always there to help. Radio promotions, tickets to Fall Fest. We would have a raffle to sit up front. Anything that we could do to raise money for the club is what we did. And we just talked about, you know, this club just has to continue. It just has to continue. He used to tell me that the work that gets done there is immeasurable to the recovering community in Lancaster County. And I always felt that way myself, but the way he said it always sounded like it just had to go on. And you know, by the grace of God, we have been going on there for approximately 33 years. And when Murph's daughter, Chelsea, got to town, she wanted to see the club. And Rich and Casey brought her out. Joe was there. And we showed her around and told her, you know, the story of the club and how her dad loved it, and you know, the work that we do, and she was gracious enough to agree to, you know, in lieu of flowers, please make a donation to the 521 Club. You know, damn, he didn't have to die to raise money for us. You know what I mean? I mean, the guy's crazy, right? He dies to raise money for the club. What a nut! I love him to death. I love him to death. I just want to say that, you know, to be able to call him a friend, there is just not, it's not enough. It's just not enough. There's not enough adjectives to describe how you felt when you were with him, when he shared at a meeting. The car ride back and forth to meetings were pretty special, and you know, even today, you know, my phone rings and I you know, Rich alluded to it. You know, I think that's Murph, you know, and but it's not. And Joe said, you know, what are we going to do? We're going to do it one day at a time. That's what we're going to do. We're going to continue one day at a time. And remember Murph the way he would want us to remember him, laughing and saying, you know, I'll see you in a minute.
Hi, everybody. You have finally found it. It's Murph and Casey TV on the BigI105.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Murph and Casey TV. My name is Casey Allyn. This is my boss, Jerry Murphy.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. And please, if you would, ladies and gentlemen, help us welcome our musical guest, Mr. Carlos Santana. Whoa, Carlos.
Yay!
You'll be rocking a whole tune for us here, won't you, shortly? Can't wait for that. Don't miss it. There might be some dancing involved, too. Hey, we've got some very exciting news. Our special guest on Murph and Casey TV today, Olympic gold medalist Michael Phelps will join us. Unbelievable, I know. There's more. Wendy the hot dog princess is in the house. Sarah Sage will join us, and of course, she's got some very exciting news. And speaking of exciting news, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, volume number 18. It's done, your new cookbook.
It is A Taste of Pennsylvania, Cooking with Casey, volume 18. This is men's favorite recipes. I love this book. I love the front cover. I love all the pictures inside as well. And if you go to our website, thebigI105.com, click on Cooking with Casey, you're going to find out exactly where I will be with these cookbooks, doing cookbook signings and handing them out absolutely free.
Free. Great
like
job,
free.
kiddo. I'm proud of you. I think it's absolutely outstanding.
Me too.
Speaking, gentlemen, we made the commitment early here on Murph and Casey TV to bring you big stars and big celebrities, and we're keeping that promise. Please welcome Olympic gold medalist Michael Phelps. Michael, good to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Murph.
Michael and Divine Grind. That's what this is all about. And Michael, if you would give me that bag of Divine Grind that you've been holding over there. No, the other bag. The Divine, Divine Grind. Attaboy. All right. Now, Michael, you lost some big endorsements, some huge endorsements due to what we're going to just call here some adolescent behavior, and overlook that and ask you, Michael, to become the spokesman for Murph and Casey Coffee. Would you do it that honor to us?
You know, I fill my swimming pool with Murph and Casey Divine Grind and do laps every day.
Do you
so,
really?
yeah.
What an endorsement already, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you what this coffee is all about. Our friends at Whiff Roasters in Lidditz took 3 very specific beans. Now, they're from Central America. They mixed them together and made this very specific coffee for us, Murph and Casey's Divine Grind. And it's available at Stoppers and Lidditz, or right here on our website, or go to whiffroasters.com, and you'll be able to get some Murph and Casey's Divine Grind. Michael, thank you very much. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's more of Murph and Casey TV. My friends, can we be serious for just a moment? Well, apparently not. The dog days of summer are coming back.
And we'd like to introduce to you Wendy, the hot dog princess.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Now, every Wednesday from the Big I 105, we'll be hauling all around Berks and Lancaster County with our weenie wagon full of Kunstler hot dogs. How much do they cost? Nothing. Absolutely free. And what else do we have? CDs and concert tickets and some of Casey's cookbooks on occasion, but
definitely.
you can sneak them out of the house if you know what I mean. And something very special this year, Wendy, the hot dog princess, will be granting one wish to every one person, one individual who comes to each of our events, and that wish will be granted by Wendy. We'll see you for the dog days of summer from the Big I 1. Well, that does it for webisode number 3 of Murph and Casey TV. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Casey, thank you so much.
you.
You're a doll. Let me thank our guest, Sarah Sage. You're the best. Thank you. Michael Phelps, Olympic gold medalist. Wendy, the hot dog princess. For some reason, the Easter Bunny, I'm not quite sure. And our special thanks to our musical guest, Mr. Carlos Santana. Take us out, buddy.
Well, now I just lost the weight.
make an adjustment. Can everybody hear me okay? You got to bear with me. Public speaking isn't my forte. Welcome, everyone, for coming out and helping us celebrate the life of our dear friend, Jerry Murphy. I'm Wendy, the hot dog princess, in case you didn't know. That's a name that was given to me by Murphy many years ago, and he gave me my 15 minutes of fame. So he was my biggest fan, and I was his. He was famous for giving people nicknames, and chances are if someone had a nickname, it came from Murphy. You, our listeners, knew him. He came into your car or your home or whatever in the morning and got you through the morning with his beautiful partner, Casey, with a joke, a new lesson on water cooler college, or even a ride on the mechanical bull snot rocket. But behind the microphone, he was a whole other person. First and foremost, he was a daddy to his lovely daughter, Chelsea, and a granddaddy to his adorable grandbabies, Mia and Levi, who he spoke of lovingly and often. Just a few things you might not have known about Murphy. He loved meatball subs, donuts, strong black coffee, Ralphie's barbecue, and Reinhold's Carnival French fries. He called his car the Alpine Hero. He enjoyed true crime stories and The Simpsons. He loved Muhammad Ali, Prince, penguins, back rubs, beach music, and building castles in the sand. He hated the cold. He hated the cold. He was a Southern boy at heart, really. Myrtle Beach was his favorite place, as others have said. All he wanted to do was retire there. That's what he really wanted. And he loved playing baseball in the arcade, Chelsea and I talked about the other night. And of course, he'd bet you a few $1,000s a game. I beat him once, but he never paid me. Murphy was a Steelers fan, but he didn't like living in Pittsburgh. Some of you might know he left for a year to go out there, and he hated it. Hated it. He even told me that he ran into Mr. Rogers there, and he cried to him about how he wanted to come back here to Casey and all of us, the IOV, and all of his family and friends. As a kid, he wanted to be a professional wrestler. One of his many stories. He was going to call himself Buffalo Chip, Beef Jerky, or Rocky Mountain. He was super intelligent and creative, always jotting things on paper, drawing pictures, just always doing something. And he was always humming or singing. Did anybody else notice that? Always, yeah. I remember one song in particular he used to sing something about drinking champagne from a slipper. I don't know. You know that one, Chelsea? Yeah. He had an infectious giggle, but when he really laughed, everyone heard it. And you laughed along. And he would sometimes wiggle his eyebrows when he said something a little off color, which was pretty often. But everybody wanted to be near him. And to watch him hold court in his office, everybody gathered there. He was telling stories, giving advice, and at a remote, too, with his fans. I mean, it was like Elvis was in the building. Yeah, I've heard his stories many times over the years, and like others have said, too, never got tired of it. They may have changed a little bit from time to time, but they were still entertaining. I remember one day he said on the air, my brother-in-law was taking me to the hospital. He's here as well. I was having surgery on my hip, but Murphy told everybody that I was having a boob job. Not true, but funny. His real passion was helping people in recovery, as we've been talking about. I listened to his stories about that as well, and I learned a lot. I really, really, really did. I had the pleasure once of hearing him speak, and like Rich said, the room was mesmerized. We laughed, we cried, and ended with a standing ovation. And it was just an experience that I'm glad I got to do. He did so much for others. I don't deal with alcohol. I don't suffer from alcoholism or whatnot, but I do have depression. And Murphy has talked me off the ledge many times. So he was special to my kids as well. Some of my kids are here. He always asked me about the kids. We always talked about the kids. He loved them. He was always there with an ear to listen or a shoulder to cry on. And I miss him terribly, and I loved him dearly. The last conversation we had ended like many of them did. I would say, I love you. He would reply with, love you more. I'd say, no way. His response was, way. Murphy was many things to many people. Life coach, cheerleader, savior, hero, mentor, and friend. To me, he was all of them. And I'm going to end just like everybody else with what Murphy always said. I'll see you in a minute.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Murph and Casey TV here on the BigI105.com. We finally made it onto television.
Can you believe this?
No, I can't. What do you think?
You're not on television.
Oh, it's still,
YouTube.
that's a
It's
television.
just as big.
We finally made it. We're stars. We're on television.
Can you believe this? It's YouTube.
Can we move on, please, here?
Sure.
Oh, is that what you were doing?
I'm acting.
On the BigI105.com, I can't believe. You know, I asked that you wore the clam diggers and the tube
know.
top,
I
and
know.
you didn't, and
I
so
know.
that messes everything up. Oh, let me just take it from the top. I got it. Hey, listen, this is Casey Allyn. I'm Jerry Murphy, and we want you to be a part of what is going to be a great endeavor here on Murph and Casey TV on the BigI105.com. When you need a cup of coffee, you need a big, hot, fresh cup of coffee. So now you know how Murph and Casey stay so wide awake every morning. It's this giant cup of coffee. This just isn't any coffee, my friends. This is Murph and Casey's Divine Grind. We had this coffee specifically roasted for us by Whiff Roasters in Lidditz. It is the best coffee you'll ever have in your life. I guarantee that. The proceeds, by the way, go to the Children's Miracle Network. It's Murph and Casey's Divine Grind. And how do you purchase a bag of Divine Grind? You're here already, thebigI105.com. Just click on to Whiff Roasters. They'll link you right up, and you'll be able to enjoy this fantastic, one-of-a-kind coffee. It is Murph and Casey's Divine Grind. And you can also pick it up at our studios located at 44 Bethany Road. And anytime we're out on location, we're going to have some in the truck. I guarantee you, you're absolutely going to love this. It benefits the Children's Miracle Network, and it's all part of Murph and Casey TV right here on the BigI105.com. Whiff Roasters, big! There's so much more coming for you from the Big I-105. A little concert for you? Got a couple of them. Alan Jackson, you want to see it? Would you like to meet him? What about Keith Urban? Can we make that happen, my dear?
I hope so.
What about your cookbook? That's coming out pretty soon.
It comes out in April. It's A Taste of Pennsylvania Cooking with Casey. It is volume 18. This year was men's favorite recipes, and boy, did I get a lot of them, even one from him. So please don't forget to go out when you hear that the cookbook is in and pick up one absolutely free. We're going to have a lot of guests on this show, aren't we?
A lot of guests. Absolutely.
Can I invite my friend?
Who?
The Rogue Sommelier.
The who?
The Rogue Sommelier. He'll let you know what wine to have with what food.
Okay, if I can bring Ted Nugent to your pampered chef party.
Sure.
That's only fair. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Murph.
Before I start, there are some thanks that I want to do. First of all, thanks to Rich and to Lee for the audio and video that you're seeing here. They did a fabulous job. Thank you. And I also want to thank all of you, our listeners, the people who have texted me, Facebook messaged me, sent me cards, sent me flowers, sent the station all kinds of messages and phone calls. All that Murph and I ever wanted to do was be a big part of your life and of your community. And For all of you watching this streaming and for all of you here, thank you so, so, so much from the bottom of my heart. So my story with Murph starts on a Saturday morning back in 1999, and I was told I had to go to the Holiday Inn in Denver and meet this guy that might be my new morning partner. So I was nervous, and when I got there to meet him, I was really intimidated. Back in 1999, Murph was huge. I mean, he was this hulk of a man. And as you've seen on the pictures, he had a brown beard and long brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. So we sat down, and he started us laughing so hard. He was telling us all kinds of stories, and I thought, okay, this guy might be all right. I guess I'll give it a try. Well, he stood up and looked at me and said, before I decide if I want to work with you or not, I think we need to go on the air. So we decided to go to the radio station after midnight on Saturday. Ty Andrews was there, and he kind of went away from the mics. I had no idea what we were going to do. But Murph turned on his mic and my mic, and we just started talking and telling jokes and laughing, and turned off the mic, and he said, well, that's all I needed. Darling, we're going to be a great morning team. And we were. We really were. Working with him was really easy, and it was fun, and I learned so much about it. Let me tell you, the most important thing I learned about it was that Murph could say anything on the air and get away with it, like the Wendy story. It was unbelievable. He also, you might not know, he was a very superstitious person. And I always liked when I would be on the air and I'd kind of see out of the corner of my eye, he was pulling his wallet out of his pocket and he'd start counting his cash. And if he had $13 in there, I knew I was getting $1 that day. He was one of those people who knew how to make others feel special, and as our time kept moving forward, I felt we were about as close a morning team as we could get. Everywhere we went, people would say to me, or if I was out doing a remote, they'd say, so what's Murph doing today? And I'd say, I don't know. Thing is, when he was out doing a broadcast and they'd say, where's Casey? He'd say, she's locked up down at the county prison. So we decided we were not two people. We were not Murph and Casey. We were one person. We were Murph and Casey. I loved when he would show me pictures of Chelsea and the kids, and I'd look at that picture and I'd say, oh my God, she's gorgeous. She's your daughter? And he would just kind of puff out his chest and say, yeah, I was really lucky. And I also loved the fact that when the kids were born, he was just so excited. And I loved that they called him Granddaddy. I just thought that was so cute. He loved Murdy, as we know, because he liked to take the kids there, and he wanted to live there. And more mornings than not, I'd be on the air and I'd hear this, Casey, come over here. Look at this. What do you think of this house? I think I just found my beach house. He really wanted to move there. But I think the real turning point in our relationship together on the air came on October 2nd of 2006. That was the day of nickel mines. I was doing news on the show that day, and I could not get through a newscast without crying. And he would just stop and say, Casey, God gave you tears for a reason. And we knew that there was something we had to do, just felt it in our souls, and we didn't know what. And the things that happened next, I really feel were led by God, because things were just dropped into our hands. First of all, an artist by the name of Bruce Becker contacted us. He had just finished painting a picture of an Amish school bell, and he had just bought that bell the week before in southern Lancaster County. And he felt that maybe by giving it to us, we could help in the healing. And when I saw the picture, I just felt this relief wash over me, and Murph felt the same way. But what could we do? We could not afford to print these out for everybody. Well, I walked over to my office, and I saw I had a message on the phone. And it was a woman who had called me by mistake. And I thought, well, I guess I should call this lady back and let her know she didn't want to talk to me. And when I dialed the number and they picked up, she said her name and said a printing company. And I told her about the bell. As it turned out, this company for free, printed out 1,000 copies of this bell picture. They felt the need too. They wanted no recognition. I'm not even going to tell you their name tonight. But we took those prints out to fire halls and EMT services, and you, our listeners, lined up and stood in line for hours so that you could get that bell print and that you could get it signed. It was just a way for all of us to heal, even to the day that the van pulled into one of those signings. And in that van were the families of those girls. And they came and they wanted that bell picture too. And that is the day that Murph and I talk about, that he became a part of this community. And he felt it, and he felt like he was here with us. He seemed to know something about everything. And whenever I came to him with a question or a problem, my answer always started like this. Well, the norm is I over E, intellect over emotion. Sometimes that gets mixed up, and you got E over I, and you make your decisions by emotions over intellect. And then the whole commercial break, I'd hear a story, and into the next two songs. But the thing is, what he said made sense to me. He knew so much, and he learned so much, and he learned it the hard way, but he was willing to share it. He was always there for me through the good and the bad. As you've seen, the biggest cheerleader for my cookbook. I had a pampered chef party at my house one time. It was all women and Murph at the pampered chef party. And he was there for me for the past 3 years when I really, really needed it. The death of both my parents, my dog, and the tragic death of my nephew and his wife and 2 little boys. And for that, I am eternally grateful. I couldn't have done it without him. My hope for 2018 was that this was going to be a better year. As was mentioned before, Murph's belief that we were put here for one reason and one reason only, and that was to love one another, and he definitely practiced what he preached. During the morning show, his phone would ring, and it would be somebody who had fallen by the wayside, and he would get back to them and tell them what they needed to do till he got to them, where they needed to go, or maybe he was assuring parents, yes, I will be there for your child. And that work took him far into the night. And as everybody has said, radio may have been his job, but the recovering community was the reason that he lived. I know, as you all know, things will never, ever be the same again without him. They couldn't be, and to tell you the truth, they shouldn't be. You're never going to hear Water Cooler College. You're never going to hear what our best friend from the olden days, Ben Franklin, is doing right now. And you're never going to learn, if I finally learned that an Odyssey is a Honda, a Mirage is a Mitsubishi, and even though I drive a Terrain, I didn't know it was a GMC. The thing is, what he left for me is so much in my heart and in my head. But he did leave one tangible thing for me, and that is the love of this young lady right here. And we're going to keep in contact forever. Now, if you were a regular listener to the program, you heard this bit that we did, and it was, I would give him some words, and he would write a short romance novel. Well, tonight the tables turn, and I'm going to take some of his Murphisms that I know you all know, and I'm going to turn them into a romantic novel for him. So, open the door and let the kids in, grab a fat-free muffin and an herbal tea, sit back and relax, because this is going to stink with romance. You walk through the door, and everyone in the room turned to look at you, but it was me that you were walking toward. You stopped at my table and you said, "Hello, darling." I shyly looked up at you, this hulk of a man, and I asked if you were the one who was going to be my morning partner. And you winked and said, "I can make that happen." So I slid aside, giving you room to sit down, and we started talking. And oh my gosh, we talked and talked and talked, and you told me so much about yourself that my head was spinning. You used to be an underwear model, Husky Boys in the Sears catalog. And I thought to myself, alrighty then. You regaled me with stories of the TV shows you'd been in and the movies, like The Waterboy with Adam Sandler. I said, oh my gosh, what part? Or were you an unpaid extra? And you scoffed at me and you said, oh no, I was co-starring for free. I was so impressed. You told me about the time that you were in a Mexican restaurant with Dionne Warwick, sitting at a quiet romantic table, and you motioned the waiter over and said, do you know the way to the can, Jose? Well, Dionne picked up on it and changed the words to, do you know the way to San Jose? Now, she made millions on that song, and you never got a penny. But that was okay, because you're not about the money. I was over the moon, because you were so hot. And it happened. You became my morning partner on WIOV. And I tried so hard to protect you. Whenever you made a mistake, I would try to correct you because I really didn't want you to look stupid. But you would hold up your hand and say, when I turn my head this way, I'm not listening to you anymore. And I would think, oh no, he is so mad at me, he hates me. You know I wouldn't gossip, I'm just concerned. Well, thank heavens you stuck with me. For 19 wonderful, exciting years, we had more fun than a bag of Japanese beavers. Teaching me, guiding me, building me up, pulling me through the bad times, celebrating the good times. Whatever I needed, I knew you were only a text message away. Or better yet, I would see your face every morning at 5 a.m. in a tiny room with the door closed, 5 hours a day for 19 years. And although I knew you got exasperated with me sometimes, mainly with my constant talking, we never, ever, ever in those 19 years had a fight. Ever. That's because I always knew when to shut up. I knew because you would start looking around going, where is that stun gun? And now the world has turned, and you're telling me you have to leave. But before I let you go, if you promise me you won't jump out of your chartreuse danskin leotard, I promise you I will finally jump into my clam diggers and my tube top. I'll put on Old Black Betty, and we'll slow dance again. And I will dip you and spin you one last time. Then I'll hoist you up on the snot rocket's back. And as you turn to drive right into the sunset, I'll call after you and I'll say, Murph, wait, don't go yet, you can't go yet. I have to know, will we always be just like that? And you'll stop and you'll turn around and you'll look me right in the eye and you'll say, amen, sister. See ya in a minute.
The Japanese exchange students get here tomorrow.
I pick them up tomorrow. And I've got a question. We're supposed to take them like little welcome gifts that said like, a welcome sign or a bouquet of flowers. Well, I can see that for girls, but what do you get for a guy? I thought candy, but I've bought them enough candy for their Easter baskets. I don't want to give them more candy. I also thought like a little American flag. I mean, I don't know.
Might be appropriate. Maybe a little Amish buggy.
Something, yeah.
Something local. Well, I'll tell you, maybe somebody has a suggestion.
I could use it.
800-860-1105. An appropriate little welcoming gift for a couple of Japanese exchange students.
Yeah.
I've got some activities planned for them.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Oh, no, it's things they're going to really enjoy. Now, what little Japanese kid wouldn't enjoy a tour of Channel 8 television? Huh?
Oh, that would be fun for them.
Saturday, taking them over there, going to get the big tour, and as soon as the tour is over with, they get to come out on the lawn there at Channel 8 and enjoy a wonderful Easter time activity, which is gathering squirrels for Kim Lemon's Easter coat. Now the animal rights people don't get upset. We don't get the cute little squirrels, just the fat, stupid ones. So it's okay, All right, then they'll just have so much fun doing that.
Okay.
Then on Sunday, I've got a true local thing. They need to get involved in our community, be local, mix with the people. So I've got them signed up for the 6 to 6 shift. They're bussing tables at the Shady Maple. They're going to be meeting some folks. I'm thinking they're going to have a great time while they're here. Today's best country, the new I-105. That's where the green grass grows. Tim McGraw, 6:37, just a little over an hour away from finding out who the artist of the day is. Give you some cash and possibly a trip down to Tampa for the Brooks and Dunn Show. Stay tuned for that. Let me get the phone.
Okay.
Good morning, the new I-105.
Oh, Casey, I'm sick and about half out of my head here.
Sorry.
Apparently, line 1 is for you.
Okay.
I got thinking, I'm going to see Keith Urban
Yes.
in Atlantic City. It's a pretty big deal. I mean,
Very big
take
deal.
somebody along with me to, hang around with Keith Urban all night. It'd be kind of fun. So I decided who I'm going to take.
Oh,
Chester and Mary Jane.
my mom and dad?
Yes, I am, because they are a gas. The only thing that kind of annoys me about your parents is Casey's dad's really into gangster rap, and man, he's got that stuff just blaring, but it's almost worth it to watch your mom sit in the back seat there and twist up her own cigarettes with one hand.
You're giving my parents a bad
And we don't even
name.
have to give a room because we can just crash on the bus.
He was a man of many names. Murph, Gibber, Jerry. But most importantly, he was my daddy. He was different than most daddies. Not only was he my dad, he was the coolest dad. All my friends were so envious. He was so full of life, so spontaneous, so witty. I remember asking him as a child, talking about my wedding one day, and I said, "Daddy, what song do you think we'll dance to? What'll be our first father-daughter dance?" And he replied right away. He knew. "Well, Black Betty, of course." Followed by that sly grin that everybody knows, just waiting for my reaction. Not your typical father-daughter dance, but I loved it. And that's why I loved him, because he was so different, so special. I always knew he was special, but it wasn't until I met a lot of you that I knew how truly remarkable of a man he was. It's not often that you meet a complete stranger and they can look in your eyes and say, "Your dad saved my life." I've heard that more than once here, and it will forever change me. As Wendy mentioned, he loved Murdy. We go every year. I remember begging to see the Dixie Stampede. So he said, "Well, we own this town. We're getting front row seats." So we got there. I was having the best time, eating with our fingers. And I looked over and he had tears rolling. And I'm like, "Daddy, is something wrong?" And he's like, "Well, I'm allergic. I'm allergic to all these animals." "But you look so beautiful when you're happy." We went to CVS right after for Benadryl. But he always thought about everybody before himself. He didn't need anything. He just wanted to help everybody. I believe that my dad was put on this earth to make a difference, to touch people's lives, an impact that would last forever. And he did it. He lives on within all of you, and he lives on with me. And I promise to everybody here that I'll keep that alive. And I'll see you in a minute, Daddy.
Welcome to Murphy Casey's webisode version number 2. Good to have you here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Murphy. This is the sweet and lovely Casey Allyn. And if you would, please welcome international recording star, Mr. Jose Feliciano.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a lie if I were to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire.
Oh! Thank you very much, Mr. Feliciano. We appreciate.
He's blind, not deaf.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Feliciano. Yeah, I have to tell you. Short version. That was a short version. One of the songs that you do is one of my all-time favorites ever, and it's, you only hear it around Christmas, Feliz Navidad. That is a great song.
Well, that's because it's Spanish for Merry Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, learn a little foreign language here on the Murphy and Casey TV show. Isn't that great?
It's great.
Listen, we have a coffee, Mr. Feliciano. It's Murphy and Casey's Divine Grind. And we would like you to sample it, and I know you're going to like it. I'm going to tell you why. There's 3 different beans from Guatemala, El Salvador, and some other Central American country I can't remember. But I'm sure that you've got kin in all those places, don't you?
No, I'm from Puerto Rico.
Oh, well, that Puerto Rican coffee is pretty good. It's spicy. And would you like to sample some of our coffee?
Sure.
We've got some brewing right back here in the kitchen. Go ahead and get on up there and enjoy a cup of Murphy and Casey's Divine Grind. Now, as you're going, no, try this way. There we go. All right. It's right back there in the kitchen. You'll just smell your way back there. It's got a good aroma to it. That's what I love about that, the smell. It's absolutely fabulous. I believe that Jose maybe found the kitchen there. Speaking of the kitchen, what about your cookbook? How's that coming?
It's men's favorite recipes, and we have got some fantastic recipes and also some very important people in the cookbook this year. The first cookbook signing will be the first weekend in April. It's a Friday evening and a Saturday morning. And then the cookbook will be available at all the family-owned markets, and we'll let you know exactly where we're going to be on what day so that you can come out and get your copy absolutely free.
Thank you very much. It's important that not all of Murphy and Casey TV is just ridiculous. Sometimes we absolutely need to be serious. So for the sake of credibility, that's why I've asked Santa Claus to join me here. What up, Snowmo? Good to have you. Now, as you can see in front of us here, we have a pot of gold. Gold, I tell you. Well, actually, it's candy. If it was really gold, let's face it, me and Santa would be in Vegas with our new friend, Snowmo. Right on. All right, but we want you to win this gold and what goes inside of it. Now, here's the deal, is Santa has got one of his leprechauns, Prancer, to take this gold and hide it somewhere over the rainbow. Now, if you want to win it, be listening to Murphy and Casey, because it might be yours somewhere over the rainbow on the Big I-105. Snowmo, you rock. Thanks for the iPod. You all so very much for tuning in for Murphy and Casey TV. We appreciate it so much. Again, thank you very much. I should tell you, Jose, I'm in a band too, Flamin' Dick and the Hot Rods. Maybe we get together, jam a little bit. Yeah. Hey, speaking of which, how about jamming for us right now as we take it out here for Murphy and Casey TV? What do you think, baby? Come on.
Feliz Navidad.
Oh, come on,
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Pero año felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Pero año felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas.
We have a really nice way of closing. We ask that everybody stand up tonight, and if you can, hold the hand of the person next to you. Whose Father? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I was waiting on you guys. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. Murph, we love you, we miss you, and we will see you in a minute.